I will bring Brian Andrigan up to talk about Traaqr. Take it away. Coming up too, Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff.
Jeff Linehan.
Hey, thanks everyone.
I don't think yours is on, Jeff. Not yet.
So appreciate you guys accommodating us. We want to do things a little different today. Having just got back from TechCrunch Disrupt, when people ask us what we do, one of the fun things we like to share, and we did there in San Francisco, got a good reaction, is, well, we're not drones, right? We're not autonomous driving, and we're not augmented reality. We do something really old-fashioned. We help our customers make money. I know it's crazy. And we do it with the very first fully automated platform to connect online advertisers with their offline conversions. And I'm going to hand over to Jeff. Actually, I messed up. I didn't introduce myself or Jeff. We got going fun. I'm Brian Andrigan, co-founder, co-CEO.
And Jeff Linehan, co-founder as well.
There we go. So we're creating a closed-loop marketing platform that fully automates with artificial intelligence on the back end the online advertising to offline conversion experience. So essentially what we're doing is we're leveling the playing field for advertisers, say financial planners, that advertise online, but then convert their sales offline with those big e-commerce giants like Amazon that get to go from click to visit to shopping cart to conversion. When people call, that chain of custody gets broken. So those folks are at a significant disadvantage. And most businesses, as we know, have some type of human interaction. And so those businesses deserve the same ability to actually track and learn and convert that those e-commerce platforms do. So to help save time here, I'm going to jump in and show it to you because I can talk about it all day and you're all going, what the heck is it? So here we go. We've got our user Ashley. Let's say she's on social media and she finds a new financial planner. She's going to tap a link and she's going to go to a landing page like she normally does. When she goes there, our platform starts working right away. We track how she got there. We track what pages she's viewed, and we've even tracked where she is. So now Ashley can simply call a phone number that she's looking at, or as you see there, she's tapping a button, and that's our integrated click-to-call widget. And as she's making that phone call, that number is identified just for her anonymous web visit, so that we know who it is, even though she hasn't told us anything. Back at the call center, an agent simply answers that inbound call. They haven't changed anything about their workflow. They no longer need to ask those annoying questions about, how did you hear about us? How did you learn? Did you Google us? They don't have to ask because they know. So now they can simply focus on getting to know Ashley's needs and actually meeting her needs and selling her the product or service that she's calling about to begin with. So that agent simply completes that transaction. And as they're clicking through, and as you see up there on the screen, they're simply going to close the deal. Again, that agent does no extra work. Our system, Traaqr, then talks to that CRM platform back in the call center, extracts that sales information, and knows that it resulted not just in a sale, but in a sale of certain value. And if, say, you're a call center manager and you want to see how your team's doing, you have a whole list of all the calls that were driven from your online advertising at your fingertips. And you can drill in and you can see what happened in that call. Did it generate a lead? Did it generate a sale, or was it just a wasted call? And you can learn from that, and maybe you have opportunities to train your agents. You can also drill down into that web session that Ashley clicked on to begin with, and actually see what happened in that customer journey to become more informed about the process. Additionally, we need to integrate with platforms like Salesforce or AdWords or Google Analytics to make sure that we can very seamlessly connect all those dots between all the tools that our customers are using every day. And at the end of the day, as a business owner, what you get is a completely transparent and friction-free way to connect those dots and also improve the sales performance of your team. I'm going to hand you over to Jeff to tell you a little more.
Sure. So this is an idea that we didn't just come up with it, identify a market, and decide to build a company around it. We actually lived this firsthand. Brian and I invested in a business a couple of years ago that is a bit of the extreme. It does 100% of its lead generation online, and 100% of its conversions occur on the phone. And that's by design, but it got to a point where at one point we were spending upwards of $150,000 a month on just Google AdWords, and we didn't understand exactly which ads were driving which profitable sales. And Google, of course, is telling us spend more, spend more, spend more, and we weren't willing to do that without better understanding what was driving the revenue. And so we looked at a variety of solutions in the marketplace, could not find one that met our needs, so we developed our own.
Great. So You know, a lot of times we talk about MVP, right, minimum viable product. And for a lot of people that could be we run something for a week, or we run something for a month. We did something a bit in the extreme because, again, as Jeff said, we didn't start by thinking, hey, let's build a product. So our data set for our MVP is 90,000 phone calls that have been connected through our system, tracking 500,000 web visitors. Now the fun part comes in, so what came of that, right? We optimized over $878,000 of AdWords spent and tracked almost $3 million in conversion value. So we had a large data set to learn from, to ask ourselves, does this actually work? And so it ended up working for us. But we can also sit back and go, is there a market for this thing, right? Here's a thing that we might not know. The number of phone calls driven from those smartphones of all of ours, right? So a smartphone search that results in a phone call, that's growing 72% a year. We're going to have 162 billion calls driven just off of Google searches by 2019. That's a lot of calls that people can't track. So that's a really big deal for us. So do we have traction? Right? That's another big thing as startups we care about. Well, we were fortunate enough, just as we were getting ready to launch, we hadn't even launched yet. Last month in August, we were identified by LeadsCon, the leading conference for lead generation companies, as one of the top 5 most promising technologies in the lead generation space, and we were represented in New York. And we just recently, thanks to the regional chamber, launched our product last week at TechCrunch Disrupt and had a phenomenal reception. But that's not enough. We need business. So we have a significant pipeline, a backlog of agencies that have this problem and have been trying to solve it. And one of the reasons we have this backlog is because when we did it for ourselves, we experienced a 34% reduction in our monthly AdWords spend. Think about that. We were spending almost $150,000 and we reduced it by 30. That's a lot of money straight to the bottom line. I got to tell you, we were happy. But on top of it, we also increased sales because we actually started training the systems what good leads look like. So not only do we lower our costs, but we ended up increasing from before we deployed Traaqr our monthly sales by as much as 53.7%. When you sit down and you talk to a prospect and you give them those kind of numbers, it's a pretty easy conversation to get to a trial. So how do we really work and how do we get that kind of value? So collecting that data is important, it's valuable, but what you do with that data is more important. And so one of the things that Traaqr does is it trains the systems that actually place the ad. So if we have any kind of familiarity, let's say Google AdWords, because that's where we started, when an e-commerce provider like Amazon pays for an ad, and it comes up in your Google search and you click on it, and then you go to their site and then you buy it, when you check out on that shopping cart, Amazon is automatically sending data back to Google to tell them that that exact click not only resulted in a sale, but it resulted in this amount of money. So Google learns, hey, this is a really good click. I need to get Amazon more of these because they'll start spending more money with me. When we do that for offline calls, we get that same benefit. So now, one of the reasons we increased our sales was we taught Google what those good clicks looked like, and we started getting more of them as a result of it. So again, as I said at the beginning, our goal is to level the playing field for everyday businesses that deal with that online and offline conversion challenge so that they can compete in a global e-commerce society. So what do we need? Right? We need your help. The first thing is, if you are a marketing agency or digital agency that has this problem, come and talk to us because that's a no-brainer. But a bigger thing is, we're really excited. As we've just launched, we're growing. So we're hiring software engineers, we're hiring customer success people, and we're even hiring channel managers and salespeople. So if you know of good candidates or you're one yourself, come talk to us because we'd love to have you join the Traaqr team and level the playing field for everyday businesses. Thank you. Oh, damn it.
Okay, who wants to start? Yes.
That was awesome. Just a quick question. Would it work for SaaS companies or
Yeah.
people get a lead to sign up?
You know some SaaS companies?
Yeah, so we are agnostic in terms of the type of business. What we found is if there's a complicated step in the sales process that requires interaction, I mean, we're a SaaS business, right? So we're not an agency, we don't do the marketing, we just work for them. So in a SaaS business, that would be a perfect fit where there's some type of human interaction as part of the sales process. That would be right on the money.
I was just going to close the loop there a little bit. We use Mixpanel to track engagement, right? So what I mean by that, say you did the call, you got to sign up or something, and it's a free trial usually. Could you close the loop all the way down to say 3 months down the road?
Yes.
So are they retained?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mixpanel is actually in our roadmap. So for those that don't know, Mixpanel is an online engagement tracking system. So kind of like Google Analytics on steroids. So we have Mixpanel in our roadmap for integration, which is our key components. The number of partners we can talk to and send data to and pull data from creates more value for us. So to your point, depending on your attribution rule, is it a first touch, is it a last touch, right? And we'll let you decide that. What we can do is track that sale 3 months down the road back to the original interaction.
Okay. My big question askers are quiet this morning. All right.
Can you talk a little bit about your revenue model? Is it aligned more with the conversions, and event-based that way, or is it a CPM model like corresponding to the media line?
Great question.
Yeah, so we kind of have two components to our revenue model. The first is the base. It's a monthly SaaS subscription model, and that includes our core call tracking and analytics platform, and that ranges from $39 a month and up. So as Brian mentioned, one of our goals is to enable this kind of technology and this kind of access to data for businesses of all sizes. But the secondary component to our revenue model, and this will come probably Q1 of 2018, is Brian mentioned that we do and we use that data to optimize the advertising platforms on the ad side. Well, we can do that today within each of those silos. So we can feed data back to Google, and we can feed data back to Twitter, and we can feed data back to Facebook, and optimize within each of those channels. What we'll be releasing in Q1 is actually an artificial intelligence powered mechanism that will do cross-channel optimization across all of those in real time. So instead of having to look back at last month and say, well, I see this channel did this and this channel did that, so based upon that data, I'm going to adjust my spend for the following month. We do that in real time. We do it dynamically and automatically. So, and that's based upon a percentage of media spend for the client or the end user. So that's the secondary component to our revenue model.
Thank you. And a separate question, do you use unique phone numbers from a pool of your own, or are you using the business's own phone number?
So from a tracking standpoint, it's a combination. Based on the user behavior and what our customers are looking for, our primary mechanism is we've developed an algorithm to calculate how many unique phone numbers are needed based on your website traffic. So every discrete anonymous web visitor gets cycled through a unique phone number. And then we use that, the assignment logic, and then we can actually use things like customer journey if there's a longer lag between when they received the phone number and when they called. So that, for example, if I'm in LA and I get a phone number today, but I write it down and I don't use it, and I went through certain pages on the website, a week later, right, that number may have been recycled to somebody in Des Moines. Well, when I call, because of the geolocation nature of me calling and my caller ID connected back to LA, if we don't have a clear association, we can actually use secondary logic to associate me back to the original point in my journey.
Just a completely different question.
Yeah.
So say you're retargeting ads, say you're not just buying cost per click,
Yeah.
you're doing lookalike audiences with a bunch of email addresses.
Yeah.
So you're selling to personas rather than
Yeah.
like words. So how do you measure, can you measure optimization then, and how do you train the retargeting system?
Yes.
That's
So there are a couple of steps to that, and in all disclosure, I spent 20 years in digital marketing, so if I get too down that rabbit hole, someone throw something at me, just not a hot cup of coffee. When it comes to, so one of the things that's really important is most tracking systems start with what I'm going to call the channel or the campaign based. We're tracking the campaign in, right? So when you think about retargeting, I have a retargeting campaign. Our platform is visitor based. So however you get there. So for example, if you did a retargeting campaign on Google, right? Even if they click that, display ad, that display ad is going to carry with it a Google Click ID that they use to associate the efficacy back to that. So they know how they got there. So the beauty for us is because we track at the granular level of the exact click that drove them over, We can then use Google's APIs to extract how they got there. So which audience were they in? Which persona did they fit? And we can actually send that reporting data back to you.
Sorry, I'm trying to formulate this thought in my mind, and I've been turning it over the last 5 minutes. I'm always wary, this is just me, of Google, quite frankly, because Google and the big guys, they have two business models right now. It's either, crush or co-op. And so it's like how are you going to manage staying independent, utilizing Google, utilizing all the big search tools, because if Google hasn't thought of something, then they realize somebody else has thought of it, the long knives come out.
Yeah, great. So here's the deal. Google actually in the last 6 months did a pullback from telephony-based tracking. And I think it specifically had to do with a lot of the antitrust stuff. So they used to provide a service like this, but it still was Google-centric, right? So you could add a piece of code to your website. It was great, right? It would change the phone number on your website back to their because they wanted to, when you made the phone call, they wanted to charge you, right, for the click, because they would do a call as the equivalent of a click. They've now switched that, and they're not using tracking numbers anymore, and they're doing a campaign level back to your Google authenticated business. And I'm not sure why they changed it, but it actually helps us. The other thing is, we talked a lot about Google. We actually built this, right, to fight against, not to fight against, but to optimize and use Google's own algorithms to our advantage. But it's not just about Google, because it's not always the right thing, right? It could be a social ad on Facebook. It could be a Twitter ad. It could be a LinkedIn ad. And so one of the great things that came out of our trip last week to San Francisco is actually sitting down with LinkedIn and talking about how we work with them on bringing this type of tracking to their advertising platform, talking to Facebook. Because, again, our AI piece that Jeff mentioned about the first quarter isn't about making sure Google's always great. It's about actually looking at user behavior and moving your budget to the channel that's got the highest probability of delivering a return on investment. So I think that's how we stay independent. Now, if they want to write a big old check, we might talk to them. Our core purpose is, is to create value for our team, for our shareholders, those that trust us, and to actually bring this technology. Because one of the things we didn't mention when Jeff was mentioning our business model, to get a comparable feature set to what we brought, because we actually paid for one with the business we'd invested in, costs $3,000 to $5,000 a month to start. The folks that charge, we deliberately priced our product at $39 to disrupt the channel-based low-end players that can't compete with our feature set. And so we figured out the unit economics to make sure that we could deliver a $5,000 a month solution at $39 and make money. And so that's really how we're trying to break up the market.
No, I think the platform agnosticism is great, and I really good explanation. So I appreciate it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
There's a random Andrigan with a question.
Yeah.
So you just started to touch on this, but can you talk a little bit more about the competition and your competitive advantage, and then what your plans are? Like, you guys want to see an exit someday, or like who would you sell to? What's that space look like?
Sure, so I'll address the first part of the question. I'll let Brian take the second part. But with respect to the competitive landscape, there's kind of two tiers of players out there. There's, Brian mentioned, kind of the lower end channel-based players. There's folks like CallRail and call tracking metrics, and there's, Ninja Cat. I mean, there's probably 15 or 20 of them. They're using non-proprietary technology. The essence of what they do in terms of using dynamic phone numbers is similar to what we do, but we differentiate ourselves in a variety of ways. One, we go to a much more granular level. We get down to the, as Brian mentioned, the click level versus just a channel level. But we also, we base everything on unique visitors versus just on channels coming in. So, they can tell you that you got 25 leads and 25 web visitors that came from a single channel. We can tell you exactly where each of those individual 25 visitors came from. And then there's the higher end folks that were the folks that we actually looked at in our own business that kind of brought this product about. And those are more enterprise players. They started about $2,500 or $3,000 a month, minimum 12-month commitment. They probably the biggest player in that space. There's kind of two or three. Invoca, Dialog Tech, Response Tap are kind of three big players Invoke is probably the most well-known. They have more sophisticated platforms, but they still focus on the call. They don't focus on what happened with the conversion. So Invoca, for example, their big approach to things is they can tell you that a call occurred, but then what they do is they use AI-based or AI-powered components in their platform to actually analyze the content of that phone call and analyze the words that are spoken. And based upon that, they'll tell you, oh, with a degree of certainty, we think that a conversion probably occurred. But they still can't tell you how much that conversion was, or if any, with any degree of certainty that it occurred. So we can do that, and we do it all in a dynamic fashion. So that's really how we distinguish ourselves.
So on the second part, as a business, right, it's our goal. It is not our intent to build a lifestyle business, right? We can get to $1 million, $2 million, $5 million in revenue, I think, fairly quickly. The other side, though, and it's been really interesting, is a reflection on the market we fit in and our goals and objectives. And what I mean by that is, probably this is not our first time doing one of these. And so before I might have said our big goal is that we're going to do a big exit. I'm not sure that's our outcome. And the reason is there's a lot we don't know. What we do know about our market is it's extremely fragmented, and you've got a lot of low-end players that are running scared. You have these high-end players that are ignoring distribution channels. And so we think a unique opportunity for us is as we gain momentum and gain traction, we may take a page out of the book of, say, a local company here, Contigix, that went and partnered with a growth equity firm to actually gobble up other businesses that could fit in our platform. So all options are out there. Our target and our objective is to grow and lead the market. If that means exit, great. If that means we become, right, the 800-pound gorilla, I'd love that too. So we're pretty open-minded and I'm going to say very down-to-earth about our approach on these things.
I'd like to go back to your asks for the community.
Yep.
So you talked one about agencies. Are you from an agency? Do you know an agency? Tell us a little bit more about minimum spend, what that agency might need to look like. You alluded to it a little bit with the price point. And then also the people that you're looking to hire, can you give us a little more detail on maybe the developers that you're looking for?
So as it relates to the agency side, what's kind of fun is we can work from both small to large, right? So if you're a $500,000 to $1 million a year agency and you manage your X dollars of spend on behalf of your customers, we want to talk, because we think we can help you be smarter for your customers. So we don't really have a restriction. Now, if you're doing $20,000 a year, it's probably not worth either of our times. But what's really great is our model and our pricing and our business platform fits so that we can work with smaller and medium-sized up to the very large agencies out there. As it relates to the people we're hiring, the first two primary categories are really in software engineering. So we have a fairly progressive tech stack. We use Node.js on our back end for those that are familiar. Now, if you don't know Node, but you know JavaScript, we will train people. What we really want are people that can think and solve critical problems effectively, that have coding experience, and then we can teach them the languages. I'm not worried, and we're not worried about that. We need people that are thinking about solving problems first. We'll worry about languages later. As it relates to the second, it comes in our customer success. And that's where I think we're going to be a little different. A lot of times customer success people are really seen as onboarding and upsell people in a SaaS business, because it's getting the customer to the next unit or the next SKU in the system. For us, we're actually going to be bonusing our customer success people on Net Promoter Score. Our goal is to make sure our customers have the right size product, not the biggest product, that they're using us and that they're gaining benefit. Because as we gain traction and we gain momentum in that fashion, as Jeff was mentioning, our secondary sell, which is hopefully the no-brainer artificial intelligence-based spend, that's highly profitable, and it becomes a no-brainer buy for a customer. So if they don't want it, they don't want it. But our goal is they'd be stupid not to buy that add-on later on, but it's not the job of our customer success person to push anything on a customer.
Quick question again, sorry.
That's okay.
About the phone number thing, so there's only a finite number of phone numbers you can generate, right? So if each visitor gets a unique phone number, and they get called from that number, then a week later they call that number back, it's going to go somewhere else.
Actually, no.
Reassigned, right?
No, good question. And we're all thinking within the confines of what we're all. I didn't mean to stop you. If there's not a piece, I'll wait. Okay. Within the confines of
interesting question.
Of what we're. of what we're used to, which is the construct of telephony, right? What we do is we calculate, we have an algorithm to calculate based on your website visitor traffic, the number of phone calls you receive, the average time between visit and call. We can estimate an optimal number. We actually provide a good, better, best, right? Precision number of phone numbers. On top of that, once an individual calls that phone number the first time, that phone number stays associated with that client. First off, the pools are to the site, right? So we're not taking a phone number that's going to Travelocity and then moving it to hotels.com next week, right? So the phone numbers are discrete to the site, to the customer, for us. On top of that, once an individual makes the phone call, we've now associated an inbound caller ID to an actual call event. And if they call back a week later, a month later, a year later, we'll actually route them through and not retrack them because it's already been assigned an affiliate. So we have some safeguards within our data model to make sure that we associate the appropriate chain of custody throughout the process.
What do you see as the future of digital advertising, and what do you think of the numbers now that say it's starting to drop a little bit?
Sure. So I guess drop becomes relative, right? Because just this past year, it surpassed television, right, as the largest media. So let's say it's even still going to go down. That's okay. For us, it's not about the volume, and actually our goal is actually to reduce, right, technically, the amount of digital advertising required to achieve a business goal. I think we've hit a point where efficiency and efficacy are important in digital advertising, more so than coverage and reach. And so while with technologies like ours, we help customers, like I said, we reduce spending 34%. Google's not, well, I guess they could be a little upset with us, but they're also happy that we're continuing to spend. And as long as it works, and we now know it works, we're willing to spend more. It's that uncertainty in digital advertising that we think is the problem. It's not whether it's big, medium, or smaller. And we're also agnostic about the type of digital advertising, right? There's lots of different things. You've got programmatic display, which is really important about reaching certain audiences. You have, in-stream video, you have search, you have social. You even have organic, and you even have things, another great startup here in town, PowerPost, is doing, right, corporate publishing, so that it's actually unpaid, right, digital. Our goal isn't to choose which of those is the right one. Ours is to help you understand which of them is working, so that for you, you choose the right one.
Okay, we have time for one more question if there is one. Anyone? We good. All right, well, thank you guys so much. This was great.
Thank you.